This way. Okay.
All right, welcome back to the Black Carnivore live stream. I am so excited to see you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I am back with my guest co-host, Audra, and we are going to be talking about, when things go wrong on Carnivore and what to do and, who to go to and who to turn to. So I want to jump right in, but before we do, Audra, did you find a light for yourself?
I think I will find the light soon.
Okay, all right. So yeah, lighting is, it's probably the most important thing. But in the meantime, I do want to say thank you to everyone who, who reached out to me and asked if I were okay after this massive storm that hit the East Coast. So yes, I am okay, but wow, it was wild. And, looking out on the street yesterday, it was just really crazy. And, and I did a lot of walking around today. So I actually got, I think, 27,000 steps in already. I had to take my dog back to the vet when it's a 2-mile walk, 2.5-mile walk. So I did it 4 times today. And, the park is flooded. I mean, I see there's like lakes in the park that were not there yesterday. So it was a big day, big day.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I couldn't imagine. I could not imagine.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a lot of storms in this apartment and, and in this area. And, I guess they can't call them correctly every time. But, we had a storm 2 weeks ago, a hurricane, I think it was Henry. And there was a lot of preparation and really nothing much happened. But this just kind of came out of the blue. Didn't know about it.
Well, I'm really glad to see that you're okay.
Yeah.
I was concerned too. I'm really glad to see that you're fine.
Thank you. So let's dive right into today's topic. We have a lot of new people who are getting started with Carnivore and, and just kind of trying to find their way. Now, I find it interesting. Like, I forget about, some of the challenges that I had in the beginning. And some of it, a lot of it, I think it was due to not, just not doing things right. But, some of it I think is just part of the process, as your body gets used to this. I mean, one of the biggest things that's going on is your gut microbiome is changing a lot, because you are starving the, the I guess it's bacteria or whatever it is that eats carby stuff and sugar and everything. And, and they don't like it. I mean, so that sends a lot of signals to your brain and to your body. And I do think that that's why it's quite difficult in the beginning, even if you're coming from keto, because you've still been eating a lot of carby stuff. But when you go all the way carnivore, that changes a lot of things. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's probably why a lot of people have maybe some unpleasant beginning side effects associated with starting carnivore. And don't get me wrong, I think there's a wealth of great information. There's all kinds of groups you can join and chats and things like that. But like sometimes it's just really nice to have support if you are kind of experiencing some side effects. And so I guess this is a really great topic. So before you quit or before you think that it's not successful with you, it's probably time to get some help. I think that's, I think it's a great topic.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I remember early on I interviewed a woman. She wrote a book, I can't remember. Her handle was something like Keto Big Sis or something like that. And basically, her thing was, let me just show you what to do so you don't start out wrong. So just like your big sister just shows you the ropes and shows you how to do stuff, let me do that. And I thought that was so cool. And, essentially that's what I'm trying to do is, help you skip over like the hard stuff that I figured out, that other people figured out, and just do it the easy way. And don't do all the hard stuff that everybody does.
Yeah, and I think too, it's easy to get discouraged because like when people post a lot of really motivational stuff, and don't get me wrong, the motivational stuff is awesome. That's why I participate in a lot of forums. But like, when your journey doesn't look like those finesse, amazing photos and everything that's going on, it's like, I wonder if it's really for me. I'm gonna go try to add more light. I'm sorry, hold on.
Sure, sure. So, and I mean, I think that that is a really key, a key thing to talk about because, like today, Aaron, I've posted his before and after on Instagram. So I don't know if you all had a chance to look at it. And he has had an amazing story and has, his health and everything has rebounded in a way that, most of us are not even ever going to experience. He had open heart surgery at 28. But
What?
yeah, yeah. It was, his situation was bad. But I think that it's important to, to see his story and to kind of understand like what he went through, but also know that, well, I'm not going to, I don't mean to call you out, Aaron. Sorry about this. But, he cheats. And that happens, so the journey to health, like more and more I've come to realize that, health and your goal is not a destination, but it's just like the beginning of the path. You've got to stay healthy until the day you die, hopefully at 100. So I've got 50 more years of not only getting healthy, but staying there. And what does that look like? How do I do that? Does that mean that every moment has to be perfect? And I think it's important to understand that every moment is not going to be perfect. And still, you can be in a better place than you were before, and you could be still moving forward and achieving your goals. So, even if you take one step back, that doesn't negate the 20 steps that you've moved forward. And I think it's important to, to know that and to know that the people, when we look at before and after pictures, I feel like people just think like, it happened like that. And, it was all a downhill slide and the weight loss just came off and it was totally easy. And that person is perfectly following, whatever program they set out for themselves. And that's just not true. And, excuse me, after people, I don't know what that was about. And after people, lose the weight and get to their goal, they also gain weight. And it doesn't mean that that's the end of it. It doesn't mean that you've negated things. So you've got to you got to give yourself some grace. And I hope that helps, some people out there.
I think you really bring a good point. That, we don't see other health markers in before and after pictures. I know that you had shared about your asthma. I know that for me, I used to have these like little moles, like little things all over my face and other markers of metabolic disorder, achy knees and stuff. I mean, that's not Instagrammable. You can't,
Mm-hmm.
so there is so much I think that people don't give themselves credit for or don't understand that it's a progress.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think would probably benefit from, just being able to talk to someone. I think the forums are amazing, but there are limitations to the forum and different forums. And I think a lot of people sometimes they ask questions out there, and as helpful as I think the community is, which has been a part of whatever success I've gotten, it's just sometimes really helpful just to ask for help, just to kind of have someone that knows a little bit more about your story, a little bit more about kind of some of the health challenges that you're having, and maybe even set some realistic goals. I think we should probably start there, setting realistic goals. It was really helpful for me to hear what you and Ariane had spoke on a couple of lives in the past, that your journey is not like anyone else's journey. So your before and after is going to be completely different. And a lot of your improvement in health is not Instagrammable. I mean, how do you take a picture of no longer not having the challenges with asthma or allergies? How do you take
Mm-hmm.
a picture of
Well,
no
yeah,
longer having swollen ankles?
last
or
fall last fall I took a picture of one of the cabinets in my kitchen I keep all my medications in, and I took a picture of the cabinet. This shelf I had not touched since December 2017. All of the medication there had expired, all of it, and there was a lot there. I mean, and as I went through and started throwing it out because I needed more shelf space, I realized, oh my God, I haven't touched any of this stuff. And not even Tylenol. Not
wow.
even Advil, like nothing. And so, it was really amazing to me how much my health has changed. And I took a picture of that shelf and and I did a post on it on Instagram. But, like, it's not, I don't know, it's not eye catching, not the way a before and after picture of a body is. So I feel like, people probably looked at it and was like, okay, I don't know, why am I looking at a shelf of like prescription bottles? But for me, it was huge. It meant no more asthma, no more allergies. Sorry about this, guys, but I used to get yeast infections all the time, and I used to like stockpile diflucan. So every time I went to a doctor, I would get like a prescription for it. So I would just have it, and I had tons of it in the cabinet that I had not taken. So yeah, that's not, that's like not, there's no picture of that or nothing that anyone would want to see.
I think it's interesting. Initially, you had mentioned the whole microbiome and everything. I think when you're adjusting to a new way of eating and the different bacteria or whatever that helps you process things are different, that whole microbiome thing is different. Maybe as you're transitioning to that microbiome, it may be unpleasant. But now you have a biome that doesn't that's not out of whack, that makes you susceptible to like something like a yeast infection. And I think that's
Oh yeah, I
amazing.
think for sure I had systemic yeast, and so in the beginning, like I did have a lot of cravings. It was hard for me, and I think that was precisely because that part of my biome was dying, and it
Yeah.
was it did not go easily, it did not go quietly into gently into that night. So it was definitely a challenge. But so
So
I think like these kinds of stories though is so helpful to hear for beginners, who are just going through this and don't know what's on the other side. So even if you have done keto for a long time, you've been in ketosis, like there's a lot of benefits that you get, from that. But the benefits you get from being carnivore are they just it just blows the roof off. Like it's a
another
completely
level.
different experience. But until you get to the other side, like it's hard to imagine that all that you're going through is worth it. So I try to tell people, but if you have never experienced optimal health, like if the last time you felt great was when you were 4, it's going to be really hard to hear me and like trust me. But I continue to try to put up the videos, make a space for people to tell their stories, so that you all who are watching know it's not just me, some wacky person who has decided to go on camera, but it's a lot of people experience that same thing of feeling unbelievably awesome in a way they have never felt as an adult, and probably not even as a teen.
Yeah, and I think that's a good first step. So as you're transitioning into something that's radically different than what you've done, um, even if you're going from SAD to paleo, paleo to keto, keto to carnivore, whatever that journey looks like, or whatever your personal journey is, I think honestly, it's really, really helpful just to kind of have someone you can talk to help you transition, I guess, so that you're not discouraged if you're not feeling well initially, knowing that the benefits will come as you put time in it, and that someone with experience could also help you kind of mitigate those side effects. Now, don't get me wrong, the forums are great. I'm sure that I know that when I participate in the forums and I say, hey, I'm having this problem, and people kind of chime in. That's good, but not knowing the whole story and everything, and there's maybe limitations than talking to someone one on one
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
about that, and someone that can say, hey, I had a client that had the same issue, we tried this or something like that.
Yeah.
So
So so what it sounds like what you're talking about is sort of figuring out when to, go to the forum or the Facebook group, when to come to a coach like me, or, when do you go to your doctor? And so that's kind of what we wanted to talk about today. What are some of the things that that may be happening, and like who to go to for for help and support. So I have a coaching program, and I you really use that to provide consistency and accountability for you. Because I think for some people, some people are like really maybe science minded and kind of curious about the science, and that is motivating enough to stay on track. But some of us are not like that, and so need a different kind of structure to in order to be successful with this way of life. And so I do think that like coaching can be really helpful, and and give you that personal touch and accountability that that is going to help you get through the first few months until you get to that point where you're feeling fabulous, and like that alone is the motivation to keep going.
yeah, I agree. I think coaching would definitely help in personalizing the journey, and maybe even, like I say, helping to set the realistic goals, and because your success is not someone else's, and also
Well,
help
you've said
you be
realistic
clear.
goals a couple of times. So, what do you think are some of the unrealistic goals that people have, and what are more realistic goals? And how have your goals changed, and how have you made them more realistic versus what they were before?
Okay, so interestingly, the scale has not gone down for me, not a lot. Now my clothes are bigger and whatever, and I want that Instagram photo. I want to put up, a picture of me now and a picture of me in 3 or 4 months, in a bikini. I know that's not gonna work, gonna help. What I have, what my success has been in, like, I've been overweight for a long time. I'm heading in the second decade of being overweight, having metabolic issues. And little things are resolving. Like I had mentioned on one of the forums that my snoring is gone. Like it's just all of a sudden I'm no longer snoring. I'm like, wow, what just happened? And that a lot of things like
And
I
people
think
kind
I
of think about that as a funny thing, but honestly, snoring disrupts your sleep. And like when you don't get enough sleep, that has an impact on your brain, it has an impact on your insulin resistance. So it's actually a pretty big deal.
It is a huge deal. And, I think I joked even on the Facebook that I thought I kept waking up because I kept hearing snoring. I thought it was my husband, and I realized I was in bed alone. So I know. And I'm thinking, was that me? Who else is in here who's snoring? Um, but I think um, making the journey my own. Now, I have to be transparent in terms of finding a coach. So when I was keto, I sought out a coach, and this particular YouTuber has tons of followers and has a lot of educational content out there that I found very useful. So I signed up for this particular YouTuber's coaching program, and I knew that I probably would not be one on one with that person, but I thought I would be with a trained person that would be like them. And what I ended up getting was a commercial for the supplements they were selling. So when I would call and try to talk to someone, And they were like, oh, trouble sleeping, we sell a sleep aid for that. Oh, bloating, we sell a sleep aid for that. And so I felt like I paid a lot of money just for access to more educational content and maybe a little bit of a discount for the supplements they were selling. So I know, first of all, in choosing help, I know that I would prefer having one-on-one contact, one-on-one, because I, don't want more access, more education. I mean, I can get the education, I think, maybe from some of the books that are, you know, that are written, or even some of the forums created, and that's a given. That's great. But I personally would like one-on-one. So, so anyway, having said that, and I'm just curious, how do you work with people? I'm just curious,
Mm-hmm.
like
Well,
when.
it's a group coaching program, and I actually prefer it that way because I think people can learn from other people's experience. So, weekly we have a group session, and I think it's helpful to hear about what were some of the challenges and things that went on in the previous week. And I kind of ask questions and try to understand more about what's happened and why, various things have happened. And, partly what I'm doing is also prodding and asking questions because I think we have become so accustomed to not listening to our bodies that that people often dismiss things that are happening and not using that information to identify what's going on with their bodies. And so, I do start to ask the questions like, how are you feeling? How was your head all the way down to the, from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet? What were the different sensations that you felt? Or were there any changes or anything like that? And that way you can identify, if you're doing better, if you're doing worse. Did you eat something that, actually didn't agree with you? If you had a challenge, what was going on? A lot of times people, I think, dismiss cheats and just sort of say, oh, like I'm just addicted to sugar and it's just a habit, or, I just had to have it. But when you start asking questions and really trying to probe in and try to understand what's happening, I think you start to uncover there's a lot of physiological stuff that's going on that's driving us to eat. And when we're not identifying what these triggers are, or if there have been too many hard things that happen in that day and you're trying to use your willpower to get through them, it's your willpower is going to fail by the end of the night. So how can you adjust your evening routine so that you're not stacking up all of these hard things, watching TV, seeing a lot of commercials, being hungry, and trying to limit how much you're having, not having enough beef or ruminant animals, so that by the evening time, your body is still wanting something, you're not recognizing it, and you're being shown these pictures on TV. Of course you're going to wander into the kitchen. Like, that's just going to happen.
There are.
And a lot of us, I think, we think, I don't pay attention to commercials. And it's like, people spend, these companies spend billions of dollars to do marketing and to perfect their product so that you are, that you want it. So I think it's foolish to think that we do have the ability to just sort of not be affected by it. Of course we are. So, wherever possible, pay so that you don't have to watch commercials, or, watch things in record and come back to things so that you can skip over the commercials. Like, I think it's really important not to look at pictures of food, or food that is not, for you, because that's hard.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny you're talking about triggers, and I love that you identify the triggers that's all around us. You know, to to cause us to want to eat something that we really probably don't really want, but we think we want because we're triggered, and that even if we are triggered and we do have I don't want to call it a cheat, but we do eat something off plan. Let's just say eat something off plan. Then it's not necessarily a failure. And that if you had a coach or if you had support, it doesn't have to take you off the deep end and you have to really climb your way back up. You can use it
Mm-hmm.
um, as a way to, if you can identify what triggered you and know what your triggers are, then you don't punish yourself. Then you can use it as a means to going back on plan, and that's my Krispy Kreme story. I'd like to tell. So
Okay, wait, everybody who's watching, trigger alert.
well, actually, it's okay. So I was keto at the time, and I was visiting Atlanta, and like I grew up on Krispy Kremes. They're kind of new here in the Pacific Northwest, but I was really good. I'd gone to CrossFit, and I have done all these great things, and I'm showing my family how great I'm doing. But I kept passing by a Krispy Kreme, and you can smell the donuts, and the hot sign was up, and I thought, you know what? I'll just have a little treat, right? So I went there, spent 45 minutes in the freaking store to get two donuts, and they made me absolutely sick. I had not had sugar and grease like that. Like, I'm sure I don't know, I'm guessing maybe peanut oil, soybean oil, that vegetable, whatever they fry it in, because I know it's not lard. But, between that sugar and grease, it made me absolutely ill. Um, and it took me about 2 days to feel normal again. So that particular incident was a learning thing. I was able to unlearn my positive associations with eating donuts because now I'm not even tempted. I just think about how sick I was. I just think maybe if I had a coach that wasn't trying to sell me supplements all the time, then maybe I could have maybe identified those triggers and realized what's going on around me, so I can set myself up for success. And I think, and I like that you mentioned how all these triggers are around you. You may not realize it, so maybe it's just you can help identify maybe changes of routine or something so that you're not eating off plan or you're not tempted to eat off plan or whatever. So
I mean, I think that everybody's got their own particular triggers. Donuts was a thing for me, and when I got going on keto, things were great. And then the corner where my morning Subway stop was, they put in one of those fancy donut stores. So it was like artisanal donuts, and I was like, "Are you kidding, God? I mean, why?" I have worked so hard. And, I was in the early days of keto, and it was like, you couldn't have picked a worse thing. Had it been a pizza spot, no problem. But donuts? So I didn't eat there for a long... Yeah, right, at that. And I didn't eat there for a long, long time. But eventually, I sort of made a list in my head. If I were going to cheat on keto, what would be those things? So I didn't want to waste a cheat meal on, just something random. So, the first time I decided to cheat, that's where I ended up. And they had these, anyway, I don't want to trigger anybody, but it was hard for me. And, and I've definitely, my first year on Carnivore, like I did it, but I also had a lot of cheats in there. And, it definitely took me a while to get my footing. So now I don't crave that donut. I see the store, it doesn't really mean anything to me like it did, before, but it takes a long time. But I think what you need is to, because what's happening is that you're pairing this trigger with this physiological need. And I think, part of what's happening is that, your body has run on sugar for a long time. So you switch over to ketosis and you're in carnivore and you're not eating that sugar. But if you also still have a part of you that is still functioning with this, mindset of cutting calories and of trying to limit your portions, you can get into a situation where you haven't eaten enough. And I
Mm.
do think that there is this, there is a limit to how much fat our bodies are willing to release without like getting upset. And so if you're trying to cut your calories and require more of the body fat than your body wants to release at any one time, you can get into the situation where you don't have enough energy. You're not getting the sugar, you're not getting enough fat from your body, you're not eating enough fat, and maybe not eating enough calories, and then you're left with a gap in energy. So you pair that gap, which might not be huge, so you don't feel awful, but you pair that gap with watching 3 commercials for Doritos, Snickers, and Oreos, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see what's going to happen.
All
So
right.
I do think it's important to pay attention to that. And how do you know when you're having that gap happening? And that is where, questioning, like, how do I feel? Am I more tired? Did I, feel as, acutely like with it and smart today? What did I eat? What did I eat yesterday? And all of those kinds of questions are going to help you to understand like your own body and what your own body needs. Now, sometimes I think, there are like real things, real medical things going on that maybe need further medical attention. But, learning your body and your own personal body's rhythms isn't gonna, you're not going to be able to get that from the doctor. And you might be able to, get that by participating in a community. And I got to say, I was in Reddit in the zero carb, and then I think they switched the name to a carnivore subreddit. But I was in that, and I spent a lot of time there and got a lot of information from, some really amazing mods and, and really amazing people who participated in the community. There was a lot of information to share there. But, it's hard to get, really good information. And I also think now, as carnivore has become more popular, there's a lot of weird and crazy information out there. And,
Absolutely.
yeah. And so, for like the big YouTubers that, that you're talking about, I'm not even sure, I trust the information that's being shared. I don't know that you can trust everything that's out there. And,
Right.
and my way of kind of dealing with things was to, to basically do scientific experiments on myself and watch what happened and pay attention to other people that I knew were taking that kind of very rigorous look, of not supposing, imagining, or extrapolating what should happen, but actually looking at what does happen, and then letting that information inform, your beliefs about how this diet works.
You make a really good point. There's a lot of good information that's out there, and then there's a lot of, I'm going to call it fringe information. So like I know that if people are taking in a lot of honey, but they still have metabolic disorders, and there's a lot. Whether you should take a tablespoon of salt on your tongue every before you work out, or fast for like 7 days, all of that. And I think when to get help, or it would be helpful if there is a lot of information and you want to know what applies to you, what's really fringe and what's really, how should I say, maybe effective for your particular journey. Because
Mm-hmm.
I know it's been helpful for me when you ask questions like, how does your carnivore look? And someone could say, okay, so they had, a carnivore breakfast, carnivore lunch, but they had olives for dinner. It doesn't mean they're no longer carnivore, because it's not the beef, salt, water, grass finished, I don't know, artesian well. I don't, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of information out there. And so this is a community that I identify with, but when my carnivore eating regimen is maybe it's not that strict beef, salt, water, although there are challenges out there for that. Um, and it's good to know the way you described it. So it's not so exclusive that if you're not following the super strict, I don't know, diet with a lot of fasting and the occasional honey or whatever, that, you can still be a carnivore, that you can help, like, as I mentioned before, personalize that journey, help structure the diet around whatever health goals you're trying to fix or, remediate or whatever. So I think that is very, very important for when to ask for help. And that's
Yeah.
the asking for help, because there's a lot of free information out there, some good, maybe some a little fringe. I'm not going to say bad, I'm going to say fringe, and to know what's applicable to you.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I there are things that I do that I know a lot of other people don't want to do, and there's things that other people do that I know aren't going to work for me. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a helpful tool, but I think learning how to to figure out how to essentially conduct a scientific experiment on yourself is important. And I think that's part of the process of what I try to do with the coaching and asking all of these questions and getting people into the habit of asking themselves these questions all the time, because that is, that's the science of it. I mean, basically scientists, they ask questions, they observe, they write it down, and they look for patterns. And
so, so speaking of questions, do you have to eat crickets or organs? No, I'm just kidding. That's been out there. I see people doing all of these things, and they eat their liver raw. They put it in the freezer, cut it up in little chunks, and they swallow it. Or they eat, I don't know, brain and cricket flour and all of that. And I'm thinking, I'm
yeah.
not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm wondering, like, do you really need all of that?
Well, I mean, I just got to the point where it's like I'm planning on eating this way the rest of my life, and I want every meal to be enjoyable. So if I have to freeze something and swallow it whole in order to get it down, that to me is not that's not a workable plan. That's not something that I can do, the rest of my life, or that I want to do the rest of my life. And no matter how healthy it is, if I really am disgusted by the food, to me, that's a sign that your body doesn't want it. So don't try to override that sign. And that's, like I was saying about all of us being sort of conditioned to ignore the signals our body is giving us. Trying to eat something that you really find distasteful is ignoring a sign that your body is giving you. And I don't know why, you might find, liver to be disgusting. Like, some people love it. I mean, I meet people who aren't even carnivores, just regular people who are like, oh, liver and onions, I love that dish. And I'm like, who are you? But if you find it really, distasteful for whatever reason, your body doesn't want it, so don't do it. There's plenty of other organs to eat, so you can find something that's much more palatable and that is very nutritious. And I think people are treating liver kind of the same way that we treated, garlic and broccoli and flaxseed, where we kind of come up with this one thing that's supposed to solve all the problems and put all of our health hopes on it. And I think that people are looking at liver in the same way, where it is some kind of panacea. But liver is very nutritious. A small amount gives you a lot of a big bang for your buck. But the reality is, most of us are eating 1 or 2 pounds or maybe even 3 pounds of meat a day. Like, by the end of the day, we've far exceeded what we would have gotten from that one, serving of liver. So, you don't have to worry that you're not getting everything that you need. We're eating enough meat that we're going to get it all, and then some. So
Yeah.
there isn't this, unless you've got something specific going on, I don't know that there's this general need to just get, more nutrition. You're already eating the most nutrient dense food. That's enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a really good point. Unlearning maybe some bad information, because I know that since I've kind of started this journey, in terms of serving size or whether or not fat's acceptable, or I don't know, strenuous exercise in order to meet certain goals. It's really nice, I think, to have a guide, a coach, or something um, that could help you unlearn a lot of stuff. And I know that some people, they look at fasting, like they connect it with their spirituality, and they punish themselves for having hunger, or I love that um, that you give people support, you help them really listen to themselves and realize that, that is a physiological need. You shouldn't punish yourself for feeling hungry or wanting to eat more than a pound of meat or whatever, that you help people, I guess, intuitively listen to things as they unlearn like all of these, I don't know, all of this bad advice about, diet and health and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an important point to really hone in on, is we can't ignore hunger, because that sends a signal to your body that like some horrible thing is happening in the world, and it's just got to keep you alive till the dust settles. And
Right.
and that means, but that what your body ends up doing is, kind of cutting the things that it would do in order to make sure just like the basic operations are still occurring. And that's not really what we want. That's not going to bring you health. And in many cases, that kind of stops the weight loss, And so it's, you really don't want to ignore hunger. You want to be hungry, let hunger happen and respond to it each and every time that it happens. And when you start to do that, you won't have that physiological part pairing up with the mental, triggers of seeing all the junk food commercials and all that stuff. So once, you really are satisfied, you really have had all the fat that you need, you've really had all the protein you need, you're not hungry, and your body has come to trust you that you're going to feed it properly, then you can see commercials for this stuff, and, it's not really a big deal. You can walk through, like, the bread or the bakery part of the supermarket and not feel, not feel anything about it. Because I used to just take the long way, so I didn't walk through that part of the supermarket. Like, I just did not even trust myself to look at cookies and stuff like that. But
They also call my name, or they used to.
Yeah.
Now they speak a different language. Now I'm not as triggered. I can walk
Yeah.
through the bread aisle and not be as triggered. But before, trust me, I can hear them calling my name as I'm walking by,
Yeah.
trying to get my attention.
I mean, for me, it was hard going through the produce section too, because they're so colorful and bright. And, as a person who loves art and who paints, like, I love color, So that was a little bit hard for me. But I remember hearing someone say that they looked at fruit kind of the way other people look at flowers. They're pretty. And you have them for decoration, but they're not something that you eat, and there's no desire to eat them. And so I definitely have found myself like buying lemons to put, in a bowl, because they just add a nice pop of color.
Wow, that's a great idea.
Hmm.
That's a, that is a really great idea. Okay, so I know we talked about when to get help, I guess, when transitioning, because if you decided to do this, and so to kind of help with some of the side effects of transitioning until you feel great, that's great.
I mean, I
I
kind
know.
of wish that I had done that in the beginning and skipped all of the, the hard stuff, because, I don't want anybody to have disaster pants. I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. Like, there's some stuff that you don't have to do. Like, you just don't have to do it. So get help early. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the one-on-one that you do, and in terms of a group, because you have, like, I guess, kind of that expertise, and then you also get to learn from the experiences of people in the group. I like that. I know we talked about maybe, as we mentioned before, some of the side effects, what happens when you're triggered, so you don't ditch it because you think you failed and you can't, there's no way back. Maybe some of the physiological things that causes the trigger, unlearning some unhealthy um, uh, information that we've been brought up with nutrition, learning to be a little bit more intuitive to our bodies and whatever. But I think I would like to touch on, and that's great for a carnivore coach. I think I would like to touch on, like, so what happens if you're on a bunch of medication and you're like, I'm gonna fix my health, and I'm gonna prove to my doctor or whatever that I no longer need all of this. Like, so at what point do you seek a different type of help? I think, I would like to kind of touch on that. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
know.
Well, you're the pharmacist, so you tell me, when, and also, talk a little bit about supplements and stuff too that people might be taking.
Yeah, so I'll definitely say I work in two capacities. I work at, say, like your local drugstore, and then I do work in clinics. And a lot of times when people come to me in the drugstore, I think sometimes they have their mind already made up. They're going to tell me the information they think I need to hear to give them permission to no longer, say, take their medications or whatever. And so that's something I definitely can't do. I can't tell people, okay, you're carnivore now, throw it all out, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's why I really appreciated the interview you had with the gentleman that reversed his CKD, his chronic kidney disease. Like, he was working with this physician, and he still decided to take a low dose of his medication because his physician had seen him make improvements on his particular CKD, or his chronic kidney disease. But they still opted to have a little bit protection that medication could provide. Um, so the first thing I think I would like to touch upon is, I think that health is achievable. Absolutely. That's why I'm kind of reinventing my role as a pharmacist. I think sometimes you may not no longer need some of the medication, because I know that if you fix your metabolic health, things start to reverse. And so the medications you are using to help yourself with, I don't know, things like blood pressure or whatever, you may not need as much. But the first thing I would say is, before you do that, you should definitely work with your doctor. And if the doctor's not hearing it, then get a second opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, you can't walk up to a drugstore pharmacist and go, guess what? I am low carb. I've lost 10 pounds, whatever. I'm all of this. So do I really need to take my statin? Like, what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, because I get that a lot, because especially if people know that, I'm kind of low carb, that I'm very low carb, actually, myself, and I believe in it or whatever. So
Wait, do you
definitely
think
in
that
that
people trust you more than their doctor to share that information?
I I think that healthcare can be a little bit what I call reductionist. That a lot of doctors get lab work and then they want to treat lab numbers. And so it's like, okay, so your cholesterol numbers are off. I can give you this, that, and that. This number is off. Let's do this and that. So I don't like to use meds unless it's a kind of an option of last resort. If you're not taking care of something maybe more acute, like something of an emergency, then if it's like a long-term something, I would personally rather try the route first, of changing your diet and your habits and all of that. And I don't know if doctors have time to sit with people and, talk about things, talk about triggers, talk about changing an eating plan like a coach would, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why a lot of pharmacists do have that trust, because, I can mention a little blurb, about, it doesn't matter how good the meds are. I can't out prescribe a poor diet. No one can
Mm-hmm.
out prescribe poor lifestyle practices. And, I'm just kind of upfront with that. I'm not trying to sell you on taking something,
Mm-hmm.
as I am trying to do that. So
And
that's
you
the
can
first thing.
actually write prescriptions, right?
There, in my capacity as a clinical pharmacist, I do have some prescriptive authority. I can work under physicians, and I do have some prescriptive authority. And then, there are cases when I can probably extend a refill in an emergency situation, and that's kind of some of the under the licensing agreement in my state, I can do it. But like, if you're in New York and you're like, hey, I'm on my inhaler, I can't write your prescription. There's kind of
Yeah.
limitations to that. And then, so the second thing I was going to mention is, so, you have to work with the physician if you want to stop medications. Medications do have rebound effects and all of that. And, I wouldn't want anyone to prematurely end something that may still have some benefit based on their health. But the second thing I wanted to ask, and then you as a coach, when people come to you with like certain side effects, like, I've had diarrhea for a week, or I have like this horrible headache, or whatever. At what point, I guess, how do you help them, or do you recommend them to see someone, or kind of like what are some of the things that people talk to you about as a coach that you think, I think this deserves a little bit more scrutiny, maybe by a medical professional?
Yeah, I mean, I think that anything that goes on longer than 24 hours, like, is important, and you got to deal with it. And depending on your age and what medication you're taking, you might need to just go to the doctor. But I also do ask questions about what they've been doing and what they've been eating in the days preceding, or in the day of, and usually get some clarity about what could possibly be causing the problem. But of course, I am not a doctor, and so it is important, especially when people are on like blood pressure medication and insulin. That those people really do have to keep up with their doctors, because that medication, it's important. It has pretty big effects on the body, so you can't just kind
Right.
of stop taking it. And you kind of have to work with your doctor to make sure that the dosage is appropriate for for whatever's going on with your body. And the dosage will probably change as you go carnivore, or even with keto, you're going to see changes. And so that's why I try to ask these questions and try to kind of arm the person, but knowing that they're going to go to a doctor, and who knows who this doctor is. And likely, if they come in and say, hey, I'm doing a carnivore diet and this is happening with my body, I can you look and see what's going on, or tell me what's going on? And that's going to be hard. You're likely going to have a doctor saying, what are you doing? You should be eating a vegan diet.
Yeah,
You're
that's right.
crazy. That's the problem. But
Right.
sometimes it's not that. There are people who have like intestinal, an overgrowth of SIBO, or parasites. Like, I mean, there could be other random things that are that are participating in causing the diarrhea. And then, I also did an interview with Craig Emmerich, who was talking about how he had Lyme disease, but didn't know it for a long, long time, because the keto and then the carnivore diet brings inflammation down to an all-time low. And so he didn't have like the kind of pain and discomfort that people have in the beginning, and didn't go to the doctor in the beginning. So he kind of had it for a long time before really doing this investigating and figuring out why he was declining, why he wasn't improving as much as other people on a carnivore diet. And
Mhm.
but if he had been in more pain in the beginning, oddly enough, he might have gotten information, and pursued it more, than another person. Because he didn't have the pain, he didn't do it.
Yeah, so I'm glad to hear you say that like there are some symptoms that, especially if you're transitioning into this diet, that maybe such as diarrhea, or maybe even cramping or whatever, that you can fix, like maybe with just food or whatever. And then there are other symptoms that if they persist and that, you're out of ideas on fixing it, then it's probably that is definitely a sign that you should see a doctor. So I like that, that you mentioned if you're having symptoms and, a different approach to eating isn't working, then it's really probably time to have it looked at by another medical professional. I think I know that a lot of people complain that, my doctor doesn't listen and my doctor says I should stop the keto and all of that. Um, and I have two words of advice, if I can be so forward. First of all, I always encourage people to get a second opinion because I know when a doctor is starting someone on a statin or other medication that I may have a particular prejudice for or against. I'm not, going to put it out there, but I usually try to empower people to make a better decision. I tell people, it sounds like you don't feel confident in this advice. It wouldn't hurt to get a second opinion. And then, like, I know you had interviewed a carnivore cardiologist. You interviewed, who is the weight loss doctor? I forget his name, out of Florida.
The cardiologist. Oh, the carb addiction doctor, Dr.
Yeah,
Savas. Mm-hmm.
right. So maybe if you find a doctor with some of the same lifestyle philosophy that you have and as an approach to health, just to get a second opinion, that you're still getting the benefit of their medical school training, but maybe this newer understanding of an approach that you've taken to fix your health or improve your health. So
well,
it
good
really
luck. I mean, I did ask one woman, in the Facebook group, like, how did you come to carnivore? And she said, oh, my doctor recommended it. And I was like, wait, who is this doctor? And it was just like a regular doctor, like not somebody, who's got a YouTube channel. But I was like, wow, I wish I had that doctor.
Yeah.
But if anybody is looking, like I did make a video called 5 BIPOC carnivore friendly doctors, and you can find it, if you go to my YouTube channel. But like, I think it's important to, try to find a healthcare professional that you can work with. And so these 5, they do practice, they do telemedicine. One is in Canada. The other 4 are here in the U.S. And so, you could definitely check them out and see if that might be a good fit. But, it is important to try to find a doctor that you can trust. But so many of them are just, they're either like, unknowledgeable about this way of eating or even about the benefits of just being in a ketogenic state. But, others of them are afraid to do something, that's kind of like off, that isn't the standard, recommendation.
So, and that's the last point I would like to make. So all of us, we belong to professional organizations within our state and nationally. We have special accreditations, all of that. And all of belonging to these organizations, all of these accreditations are supposed to separate the good doctors from bad doctors, to make sure that that we practice well. But I will say that, and it's in my personal opinion, that I believe that sometimes these organizations and accreditation agencies or whatever are work with pharmaceutical companies or big drug, big food, big pharma, and it may compromise a lot of the information that's out there. So a lot of us, if we want to continue to participate in these accreditation associations, all of that, we, I don't want to say are limited, but we are limited,
Yeah.
and there are some doctors that have had their license taken. I know that it was a big deal in certain areas, and so that's another reason why somebody like a pharmacist or whatever say, oh, don't worry about your medication. You're a carnivore. You'll be okay. Um, because well, number one, it's not professional. We don't know enough, whatever. But number two, I think that's a little irresponsible, and it can compromise our livelihood. So
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, people have asked me if I would go back to school or, become a dietitian or, something like that. And I was kind of like, no, because, I think that once you have that kind of that kind of certification, you're now under the scrutiny of, some kind of governing body. And so you don't really have the same ability to speak out. And I think that, it's sort of stunning to me that the most Googled diet in the world is keto. And yet still, 5 years later, it's still considered to be a fad diet, something that's dangerous. Like, that is the rhetoric and the language that is used in, in magazines and newspapers by the media. But it's like, this is a diet that people are looking for. They are Googling it. They are finding a lot of success with it. And, and it's being denied by the people who control the, the conversation from the top down. So as far as I'm concerned, the only way that, keto, the keto diet, the carnivore diet is going to spread is by, it's going to be a grassroots effort. And so if I have, certification, that's going to limit my ability to speak because I am now relying on that certification, for a livelihood. And so I don't want to go that route. And I think the people that are doing that, like, they're going a tough road, and I think it's great, that they're doing it. But, I think that at a certain point they're going to be limited in terms of how much they can say. But I can say more. Of course now people will say, "Oh, you're just a influencer. You don't have any knowledge or whatever." But so what? Like, I'm still sharing the information, helping people who are ready to hear the message and seeing success. And so I'm going to keep posting those pictures and keep telling people stories, and and hopefully that will help continue to spread the message.
and I think that's going to be the way we do healthcare going forward. We're not
Mm-hmm.
going to wait for everybody with certain credentials or whatever to give us a pass or permission to do what we know is best for ourselves. That a lot of people are putting it out there. And I think it is, I don't want to call us patients, but it's people driven, as we
Mm-hmm.
share our information and we spread the news. And
But
one
it's
of the
sort of
most
crazy to me that the pharmaceutical industry is like gets upset, or anybody gets upset about things being patient driven, because they started advertising drugs to us, how many years ago? Like, they
right.
started this whole thing about, patients demanding the drugs that they wanted and creating the market, so that they're no longer just marketing to doctors, but they're marketing to us. So, okay. And we decided, hey, I don't want those drugs. I want to find a different route. And then that's a problem.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's no better words have been said. No better words have been said. So, like, you're right. If they are empowering patients to ask for drugs, patients can be empowered to ask for support, with following a diet and a lifestyle that leads to better health and vitality and resilience and all of those things. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a really good point.
Yeah, yeah. So we've talked a long time, and I know we've got quite a few people here. So anybody in the chat, if you have any questions, put it in. Hit the and hit the like button. Thank you,
Oh yeah.
Manosphere Mana, for reminding everybody to hit the like button, subscribe, click the little bell icon so you get notification every time I go live. I have really enjoyed this conversation tonight, Audra, and I really appreciate, your coming on and being here. I think that, being part of the medical profession and being a pharmacist has actually been pretty helpful. If you could talk a little bit more about the supplements that that you were encouraged to take, and do you think that there are supplements that are helpful for people to take?
Okay, so I say yes and no. First of all, um, and I don't want to give any spoilers with your upcoming interview for Tuesday. I'm really excited about it.
No, give spoilers, everybody. I interviewed Dr. Ken Berry yesterday for our channel, so I am going to premiere that on Tuesday at 7 p.m. So put it on your calendars. Make sure you're here. And he and I talked about a lot of stuff, so it was really fascinating. I did not have enough time to ask all the questions that I wanted, but we got through a lot, and hopefully we'll get to do it again.
And he reached out to you, is that right?
He did.
Yeah.
So he said he loves this channel and he's really excited about it and wanted to see what he could do to be helpful.
So I know that Dr. Ken Berry talks a lot about a proper human diet. Like if you have a proper human diet, you really don't need supplements. And so my thinking is, and my personal opinion about supplements are, you should get all of your nutrition from your diet, from your food. If there is something that you may be lacking, whether it's I would say probably temporary, then maybe a supplement is helpful, for the short term, but the long term, you should be getting your nutrition from your diet. And if your diet is not nutrient dense, then you should fix your diet, not look for a supplement. And, what's interesting is, in terms of unlearning bad advice, when we hear something is good, whatever it is, then we sell it and we put it on the shelf. I remember when green tea was all the rage, and so you could take these green tea capsules. When garlic was all the rage, you can take garlic supplement. When chocolate, or I don't know.
I went through a period of juicing and trying to be super healthy by juicing, and so there was another woman in the office who was doing the same thing, and she brought in a juicer. So we juiced. I think I put in 2 bulbs of garlic and a couple of other things. I mean, it was the worst concoction that I have ever tasted, and that garlic burned every inch of the way down, and then it burned a hole in my stomach. It was awful. By the end of the day, I thought I was gonna die, and I was like, never again. So we never did juiced again. Yeah, that was a horrible experiment. So garlic, raw juice of garlic, it's
Right.
It's like fire. It's like eating fire.
Yeah. Now there are, because of the nature of our whatever, who knows, there's talk about maybe needing some minerals. I don't know, maybe some electrolytes, um, maybe even calcium, whatever, but I think you can get it from food. And what I'm afraid of, there's a lot of supplement companies now that dehydrate animal organs and then they put them in a capsule. So you can buy liver and brain and stuff. And I'm not saying those things are bad. I just think that if you were eating, you were really listening to your body and you're eating a nutrient dense diet, all of those dehydrated thymus and I don't know, cricket brains or whatever, you may not need it. So that's, I just don't want us to replace prescription drugs with supplements. I think the approach should first be with your diet, and then just,
Well, how do
by
you know if you have like a deficiency? Like, I mean, can you go to your doctor and say, "Hey, I think I might be low on, B4." Can you check it?
So that's a really good question. I think you could probably go to your coach first and go, "Hey, I'm having these cramps," because some people talk to me about something, or I'm tired all the time, like and you can talk to your coach. I would say first, and and maybe your coach say, "Hey, well, maybe you're not getting enough electrolytes. Why don't you add some drops to your water for like a week and see what that does for you? What if you do that?" Um, of course, you can go to your doctor and say the same thing, but I think my approach would be first to talk to my coach or my community and just to see like if anyone else have the same kind of symptoms. And then if you can't fix those symptoms, listening to your community and then your coach, then maybe you can talk to your doctor about it. My fear is a doctor's going to hear some words and say, okay, take an ibuprofen, a Tylenol, or an aspirin every other day or something. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you want to fix it with food, if it's fixable with
Mm-hmm.
food. So,
Yeah.
um,
I
but
mean,
I
I
will say
find
things
that
like heart
naturopathic.
palpitations.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay, I will say things like heart palpitations, low blood pressure, all of that. That's definitely a doctor question.
Mm-hmm.
If something's going on and when you're not right, I think you can tell. And I guess with the coaching, especially being super intuitive to your real needs, I guess it's the benefit of coaching to help you, make yourself aware of those type of things. But um, if yeah, I think if you can't fix it through your community and your coaching, then you should see a doctor at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, don't let these things go on endlessly. Like, if you're not feeling right for 24 hours, like, you definitely need to do some real investigation. So I would hate for people to kind of walk around with a headache or, a lot of fatigue or weakness or, diarrhea for a long time without, like, trying to, like, immediately get to the bottom of it. Because those things are signs. But I see that Anna says, I feel a little bloated and wondering if I might be retaining water because of no coffee. I don't know. I wouldn't think that coffee would, do that. But I think when you take out coffee, that, at least for me, that definitely has an impact on my hydration. And so it could be that you, sort of need to readjust how much salt or electrolytes you need because you're not having the coffee. Coffee definitely dehydrates me, so it definitely makes it a little bit harder for me to like get the electrolytes right. So that could be what's going on. And I've definitely underdone salt, but I've also overdone salt, and both suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reasons for bloating. You can be going through something hormonal. You can I don't know, maybe you've included something in your diet. I know that I'm not sure if you're eating plants, but you may sometimes plants can cause bloating if your carnivore does include the occasional plant or something. So I think there's a lot of reasons, and that's just something you need to sit down and kind of figure out. You can work with someone. It's a really great question. Like when to ask for help, that's a great time to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be the coffee? We don't know.
Yeah. Actually, I somebody asked a question yesterday on one of my videos that he was experiencing vomiting and also not enough bowel movements. And I actually think those things are kind of connected.
They
And
are.
yeah, and so I was kind of like, I haven't heard that and I haven't experienced that, but I can understand how that might happen. And I kind of was like, I wonder if this is like a magnesium electrolyte problem again.
It could be. It could be. if he's not having enough bowel movements, things are going up instead of the proper peristalsis going down. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
something he should talk to his doctor about. And
Mm-hmm.
because some people do feel nauseous or whatever, because peristalsis is not, or the movement that your digestive tract does to usher things down, something's off. And there can be a lot of reasons why that's off. So,
Mm-hmm.
I, yeah, so you can definitely start with the magnesium to see if that helps with the bowel movements or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I know that sometimes if people don't have enough stomach acid, they kind of burp and kind of,
Mm-hmm.
feel that kind of nauseous feeling. So that can be maybe not enough stomach acid, or it's not acidic
Mm-hmm.
enough or whatever. So, there's a lot of reasons. Who
Yeah.
knows?
I know
Those are
people
good.
ask me a lot of questions on social media, and it's hard to like, to really help people. And I sometimes I'm kind of like, there's too many questions I need to ask in order to get to the bottom of whatever your problem is. And and
Right.
sometimes I hear it and I think it's probably, pretty easy solution, but I just gotta, I need to talk to the person. Like, there's just too many questions. And so, for me, that's a little bit frustrating because I'm kind of like, I don't want you to abandon this because, you're, it's
It's a
not
little
quite
bump in the road
working
there.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But, at the same time, like, it's just too much to do, typing on Instagram. So, I do send people the video that I made, and I'm really glad that I made that video, Common Problems, Common Solutions, because I think that that does cover a big portion of the initial problems that people have. But, sometimes, like, there are nuances that, that each person has that, sometimes you just need to ask that question of somebody.
Right. And I know too when sometimes people have two events that happen at once, they think one caused the other. So for
Mm-hmm.
example, let's say if you take a supplement and all of a sudden you have horrible headaches, the supplement may or may not have contributed to the headaches, but because you do it at the same time, you
Mm-hmm.
may associate that this caused that. So
Mm-hmm.
so sometimes, yeah, it does take a little bit more questions and to get you thinking and all of that. And I think, hence when to work with an expert when or a coach or with your doctor, it's a good time to get a lot more detailed um, information associated with your particular circumstance. When the
Yeah.
general information is good, but it doesn't help fix your problem. So,
Yeah. Absolutely. And let's see, Manosphere asked, honest question: what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on hot sauce? Um, I used to use it a lot in the beginning, and I just kind of lost the taste for it. So I don't really use it, and I mean, I don't have a problem if people want to use it. I think it's fine. Just to make sure, I mean, you're get Frank's hot sauce rather than, I don't know, like, I don't know.
yeah,
Texas Pete, I'm sure, is fine too. Yeah,
I
it's
I
all
am
fine.
team hot sauce. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. I like, I've been making it myself now to make sure there's not a lot of stuff in it. So I like to blend up vinegar and garlic and habanero or something and dip it, whatever. But yeah, I'm hot sauce all day. I'm just saying. But I
I
do like
used to be.
flavor
I
with
don't
my heat.
know. I don't
Huh?
know. I used to be, and then I just lost the taste for it when I stopped eating spices and stuff. I don't
Uh-huh.
know. Now, like, salt is all I want on meat. So,
Well, I think too, you're a lot further along on your journey than mine. And I know things that I swore I couldn't live without now. I don't have a taste for them, so to speak.
mm-hmm.
So who knows? That may be
Mm-hmm.
me next year. But as of today, I'm into that hot sauce. I am team hot sauce. But don't hold it against me.
So, are you like Hillary Clinton and Beyonce? You carry hot sauce in your purse?
I'm tempted to, but no, I'm not that bad, but yeah.
I do carry salt in my purse.
That is a good tip. I think I will
Yeah.
too, because I don't like the
Yeah.
salt that's out there. I like my expensive, amazing salt. And so, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
really good idea.
Yeah. But also you got to carry it for emergencies. So it's happened to me many a time. I'm out and all of a sudden, I get that lethargic feeling that I know is from not having had enough salt. And so I always, always, always carry salt in my bag, and I think the easiest thing to do is to get those little packets you get at McDonald's that have like one
Uh-huh.
serving of salt in it. Just get a handful of that, throw it into the bottom of your purse. It's always going to be there at
Yeah.
that moment when you really need it. And I've had that happen a bunch of times, and it sucks. Like, I really, hate it. It more happened in the beginning, like in my first couple of months of carnivore. I was still drinking alcohol, and um, I was not able to manage, alcohol and my hydration levels at all. So, whenever I drank, there was always a horrible hangover. There was always, a ton of dehydration. And it also meant, problems like not getting the salt right. So, taking out alcohol was critically important for me. Um, and and that helped a lot with not having these emergency situations, but still they happen. So yeah, keep the salt in your purse.
Huh? Good tip. All
Mm-hmm.
right, Coach A.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep the salt in your purse. You heard it here
Yes.
first.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so we didn't really have that many questions in the chat, so I hope you all are just enjoying the conversation and, let's see, hit the thumbs up button or, type yes in the chat. Let me know if you have been enjoying the conversation tonight and, what you would like to hear in the future. I definitely want to try to make content that is useful to you and helpful in your journey, because I really want to see people succeed in eating this way. As far as I know right now, there's no other, black voice that is promoting eating meat. We have a lot of health channels out there, and they are very plant-based, plant-focused. And, we need somebody who is supporting the health and the benefits of eating meat. And so I'm trying to do that, and I want to, I want to do the best I can to get that message out there. So you tell me, what would be helpful? What do you want to hear? How else can I get that message out there and spread it?
What's interesting, and when you said that, I thought about this. I belong to this other group. They are meat focused and they are environmentally kind of minded. And I think one of the newsletters is associated with the person that did Sacred Cow. Have you heard of that
Yes.
movie? Yeah.
Yes.
So
And in
you were,
fact, I had her on the channel, and we definitely have a close relationship. So I'm excited to support her wherever I can, and she me as well.
well, she shouted you out in her
Hmm.
newsletter.
Oh,
You
I didn't
know,
know about that.
yeah. Yeah, and I was like, wow, the sacred cow, because I didn't think about this. Everybody says, oh, you should eat plant-based, it's better for the environment. And then especially with all the crazy weather and things that are going on, and climate change is a big buzzword, and on the news and everything.
Hmm.
I just think about, is it really? I mean, yeah, I saw the movie Sacred Cow, but then I thought, how many rainforests and habitat has been burned to the ground and made unnatural to support a crop, of plants. Um, and then I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. I don't want to go off on a
Hmm.
whole nother topic, but that may be something worth discussing. You know, is it really environmentally, I don't know, prudent to continue a plant-based diet, especially what it takes to keep like those habitats unnatural to like grow soybeans, all the nutrients are stealing from the soil, like, the whole change in ecosystem, how native plant species and animal species are have been decimated because we're trying to grow soybeans or peanuts or whatever. Like, I just think that would be a really interesting topic. And I'm kind of a science nerd, so
Yeah.
hope I didn't
Well,
I
I
hope I didn't lose
definitely
anyone.
no, no. I definitely want to talk more in the coming weeks about veganism and, well, I mean, just the effects of a plant-based diet. And we started to talk about it, but I think like you're describing, there's a lot more to sort of unpack in terms of whether a plant-based diet is actually better for the planet or not. I would argue that it is not. And for all the people who are, I actually think I am going to just record myself, because I was looking at some vegan channels today, some vegan lifestyle channels, and one of them was, her focus is on sustainability and reducing waste. And I was like, you know what? Like, nobody reduces waste like me. When I do grocery shopping, and I do, all my meal prep and everything, all that's left at the end of making food is the plastic tray and the saran wrap that went around it. There's no
Wow.
other waste. And I'm like, but I go to your house and your compost, bin is like full of
Right.
vegetables that we
Right.
decide, we don't eat. I know that I didn't eat the the stem of the broccoli. I mean, I'm
Right.
paying for half the weight of the broccoli is the stem, and I don't eat any of that.
Right. Or the peel of
And
an orange.
or the peel of
Speaking.
anything,
Yeah, the
carrots
core.
peeling,
Yeah.
everything. So
Cantaloupe peel. Yeah.
yeah. So I wanted to do a video of like, what a true no waste diet looks like. If I don't finish my
Wow.
meal, my dog surely will. So there is
Yeah.
no waste of food in my house. Nothing gets wasted, not a piece of meat at all. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And how, like, if you're going to eat the Impossible Burger, like, it's not,
Mhm.
your food didn't make a stop at a factory and have a lot of stuff done to it before you decided to eat it. So, yeah, I think that would be a really great topic. Side by
Mhm.
side, you do vegan prep for a week or vegetarian prep for a week, carnivore prep for a week. Where's the waste?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Heather G says she'd like to see a shopping video showing what are the best cuts of meat to buy and what I choose. So yeah, I got to do that too. And Manosphere says I'd love to hear more about how much it costs to eat a carnivore on a weekly basis, meal prep, stuff like that. Yeah, so I definitely want to do that as well. I get frustrated when people are like, oh, eating meat is expensive. It's like, are you kidding me? It is so not expensive. I mean, yes, if I were going to get, totally aged beef standing rib roast, yes, that's $1,000,000. But there's a lot of
Yeah.
things to choose that are not that. Um,
Right.
and scallops. That's my other favorite thing. That is so ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
But so yes, those are great ideas, and I've been sort of toying with the idea of like doing some kind of a vlog, and I feel like those topics are good for a vlog. So
Yeah.
I do have a TikTok account, though I've told no one. So now you all know.
What?
I know.
What?
I know. I know. But I've
Sold
told
your
no one.
soul.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just kidding.
there's only so many platforms that I feel like I can wrap my head around, but I wanted to reserve the name. So I'm Black Carnivore on TikTok. But I was thinking about like, trying my hand at doing some very short vlogs and just see if I can learn how to edit and learn how to tell a story. And those are the types of things that I feel like would be, would make for good vlogs, like, me at the supermarket and those sorts
Yeah.
of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna So I'm going to try that. Heather G says, I watch other channels and they're eating ribeyes every day. That's a bit costly. Yeah, I have never eaten a ribeye every day. I absolutely cannot afford that. And I think that's absurd. Yeah. Yes. So
But
no,
other
you can do it
parts of meat
otherwise.
are just as tasty. They're just as tasty. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah.
we need, right? The Black Carnivore Cookbook.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I contribute a recipe, can I contribute my hot sauce recipe? No, I'm just kidding.
Wow, I didn't know you had a hot sauce recipe. I do have such a cookbook, which I am building and growing and adding to, all of the time. So that is available for my clients. And I don't know, maybe one day I will, go see about like actually publishing it. But
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I would love to have the contribution of your hot sauce. Yeah. Yeah. So, oh man, there's a mosquito. Like, how is there a mosquito here? Oh, just landed
Man,
over there. Yeah.
the standing water, all the lakes in Central Park or whatever.
Yeah, I guess so. Oh, all right. Well, I'm gonna have to have a hunt as soon as we're off, because mosquitoes love me. I'm gonna have a ton of bites. Okay, so Esther tried different cuts of beef and find many of them to be really good. Miss M says ribeye is king. Yeah. Well, Miss M, aren't you the ones that like find ribeyes on sale for like $4.99 a pound? Like, if I found that,
What?
yes, I would buy them all. I mean, I did find ribeye on sale at my grocery store for $9.99 a pound, and I bought them all. But I almost never see that. So if I see it, yes, I would absolutely do it. But yeah, you can totally do this without eating ribeye.
Yeah.
Okay, so Esther says, publish it, AA. If you build it, we will buy it. Okay. All right. I'll work on it. But we have had such an awesome conversation tonight, and I really appreciate everyone for being here and for, listening in. So I hope if you are having trouble with a carnivore diet or you feel like you're doing it wrong, you know which way to turn for help. You can always find me on Instagram, Black Carnivore, or you can find me on Facebook, and you can apply to work with me if you want for coaching, and you can go to blackcarnivore.com // apply. Oh my gosh. Apply now. I think that's what it is. So and of course all the links are on my Instagram. If you go in the bio, the links are there. I look forward to seeing your success. I can't wait to eventually have you on the podcast so I can interview you and find out your story of success. So I am eagerly waiting for you all to find your footing, to move forward, and to be ready to share your story with the rest of the community.
Yep, there is strength in numbers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone. So I will see you. I will be in the chat on Tuesday when we watch Dr. Ken Berry. I am so excited. It's going to be awesome. And then next Thursday, Arian is back, and we will have an awesome conversation then. And everybody, have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you Tuesday. All right. Have a great one.
Okay, bye.